Grace, mercy, peace are yours in Christ Jesus. Amen. My friends, that picture there, it's not a picture of a chair. It's not a picture of a bench where you sit down and take in the beautiful countryside around you. Let me say it again, that picture is not a picture of a chair. If you see some of the points there, the barbed wire, those are not massage points to soothe and comfort. They are not tickle points to put a smile on your face. They are barbs, and they tear. Set yourself there, straddle that fence, and what happens? It hurts. And worse than that, it rips, it tears, and it does the straddler, the one who tries to straddle the fence, it does the straddler damage. And yet what do we know? We know people like to straddle that fence. They like to think of it as a chair. People set themselves there straddling both sides. They set themselves there like that's the right place for them to be. They know it hurts, but try to get them to move off, and they will fight you and they will fight themselves. Sometimes they can get so used to the pain of straddling that fence that when they do try to move off, well, that hurts all the more. And so they set themselves back on straddling the fence, no matter how much it hurts. One leg on the right side of the fence, one leg on the wrong side of the fence. Do you ever straddle the fence? One leg on the right side of the fence, one leg on the wrong side of the fence. This past week I was riding the fence, and it hurt. I had spent I don't know how many hours trying to pull something together. And it was looking up. I thought we were getting somewhere, pulling something together. And then one by one, things got pulled apart and got pulled apart. And I got frustrated. I got frustrated and a bit ticked off because all that work putting it in, and then it seems like it's getting pulled all apart. And so I got on that fence and I rode it. I had one leg planted firmly on the one side. Well, I thought it was planted firmly on one side. I'm with God. And I had the other leg planted firmly on the other side. I'm frustrated. I'm grumpy. And I have every right to be, and so I'm going to be frustrated and grumpy and don't get in my way. What made it all the worse was I know people. I work with people who deal with things far, far, far worse. And they deal with those things that are far, far, far worse with a whole lot more grace than I was showing. But I had my one leg planted firmly on this side of the fence and the other leg on the other side of the fence because, well, I had a right to be. And I rode that fence and it hurt. And the Spirit of God comes along. The Spirit of God comes along and he sticks today's sermon in front of my face. A lesson from the life of Joshua. A lesson from the life of Joshua. Get off the fence. It hurts some to move. But it feels a whole lot better to be off of that fence and standing with God than to be stuck on the fence trying to straddle it. Do you ever try to straddle the fence? One leg on the right side of the fence with God. One leg on the wrong side of the fence without God. One part of you living with God. One part of you ignoring or even fighting against God. Our lesson today comes from the end of Joshua's life. He's gathered his people together so he can share his last words with them. He goes through some family history, and like every family, right, it's not all good. And then he gets to his point. His point, get off the fence. How does he put it? Now fear the Lord and serve him with all faithfulness. Throw away the gods your forefathers worshipped beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods your forefathers served beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. In other words, Joshua says, get off the fence. And then he says, well, word said, I wouldn't be surprised if many of you have them planted someplace in your house. And as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. It seems that the people had one leg on the right side of the fence with God and another leg on the wrong side of the fence without God. Maybe they didn't have that leg on the wrong side. Maybe it wasn't firmly planted down so that they were riding that fence hard. But maybe they were just trying to keep their options open. Does that sound familiar? We live in a world that wants to keep its options open, right? Maybe they're just trying to keep their options open in case somebody else came along with a better deal than what God was offering. Or maybe they're just trying to keep their options open in case what God was offering didn't come through for them and they needed to look somewhere else. Or maybe they're just trying to keep their options open. God, we like, please. World, we like, please. And keeping their options open. Joshua calls out. He calls them out. Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. Did you hear those two small words that were in the middle there? Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. And then Joshua calls his people to follow. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Those two small words. This day. Why those two small words? Why this day? Here's one reason. Imagine that sign there. It's not just a barbed wire. It's not a sign, it's a picture. Imagine that picture there. It's not just a barbed wire fence, but it's also a charged fence. You know what that means? An electric fence. Straddle that electric fence. Imagine that God sends a charge through that fence every once in a while. And you're straddling the fence. What side do you jump off on? Do you jump off onto God's side of the fence, or do you jump off onto the other side of the fence? Not something we want to find out, is it? Or imagine it's not just a regular charged fence. Imagine it's like one of those fences, where I used to live in Colorado, just down the road. They put up a nice new prison, and one of the claims to fame was it had a lethal fence. We know what that is? Don't want to touch that. It will kill. So imagine that barbed wire fence isn't just a barbed wire fence, it's a charged fence, and every once in a while God sends a lethal charge through it. Don't want to be straddling the fence at that time, do we? But when Joshua encourages us to get off the fence, he's not just encouraging us to get off the fence because of what might happen or else. But Joshua is encouraging us to get off the fence because Joshua knows it's a whole lot better. Life is a whole lot better when we're not straddling the fence. Life is a whole lot better when we're firmly planted together with God and walking together with God. And so he says, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. And then he calls us to follow him. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. And then what happens? You remember? It was some really puzzling stuff in our lesson, wasn't it? Really puzzling. So Joshua says this good thing, choose for yourself, as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. And the people answer. And the people answer, yes, we will follow with you, Joshua. We will serve the Lord. It sounds good, doesn't it? Sounds like exactly what we'd want to hear from the people. Well, what does Joshua say? No, you won't. And the people answer back, yes, yes, we will. We will follow you. We will follow the Lord. But Joshua doesn't seem to buy into it. He doesn't pat them on the back. He doesn't cheer them. Instead, he gets in their face and he says, you are witnesses against yourselves. And you have chosen to serve the Lord. What's up with that? I don't know. I don't know what the people were thinking. I don't know what Joshua was thinking. But it sure seems clear that Joshua was looking for something more than just nice sounding words. In fact, we hear him call for something more than nice sounding words. He says, now then, throw away the foreign gods that are among you and yield your hearts to the Lord. In other words, get off the fence and follow the Lord. So what would Joshua say to us today? What would he say to you today? In what part of your walk with God are you trying to straddle a fence? One leg on one side, the right side with God, the other leg on the other side of the fence without God? In what part of your life are you trying to do both the God thing and the thing of the world without God? What would Joshua say to that? And what would he look for from us, from you? More than words, right? Why? Because Joshua knows what Jesus has for us. Joshua, he knew what Jesus has for us. You see, Jesus, he didn't straddle the fence. He didn't hedge his bets. He didn't keep his options open when God sent him here. He didn't keep his options open or hedge his bets looking for some better option than doing what God said, some better option than following his Lord and Father. Instead, Jesus went all in. He went all in with God. And going all in with God, he went all in for you, for me. He went all in even though it cost him his life. Instead of riding a fence, hoping to get some from both sides, to be in good with both sides, Jesus rode a cross. Rejected by both sides. Rejected by God and rejected by the world. He rode that cross for us. He rode that cross in our place. He rode that cross for our wishy-washy times with God, without God. He rode that cross for our straddling times when we try to straddle with God, without God. He rode that cross for the times when we make wrong choices and jump over that fence to the wrong side. He rode that cross for you and for me and for the world, so that he could give us his place. He took our place riding the cross so that he could give us his place, all together right with God. All together right with God. What does that get to mean for us? For you. For us. God isn't keeping his options open. Let's see if somebody better comes along. No, God isn't keeping his options open about you. For you, he says, I choose you. I choose you, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And for you, he isn't playing wait and see. Let's wait and see what they do with this. Let's wait and see what they do with that temptation down the road. He's not playing wait and see with you. But he has already said, to you, for you, I forgive you. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And for you, God isn't hemming and hawing. Should I go with him? Should I go without him? No, for you, he said, follow me and I will bless you. Not follow me and I might bless you. Follow me and we'll see what happens. No, follow me and I will bless you. Joshua knew what it's like to be blessed with Jesus. And he knew what it's like to ride the fence and how hard that hurts because he had seen plenty of people try to do that. So what does he say? Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. And what do? What do we say? Well, we get off whatever fence we sit on and we echo Joshua and we live like Joshua. As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. That's what our next hymn says, right? We will serve the Lord. Take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee.